Hi, this is Kelly Allen, and I'm back reading the puzzle, A Gift from Spirit. And I'm moving on to the next chapter, Truth. And before I get started, I'll go ahead and read the quotes that are included within the book, and then I'll move right into the chapter titled Truth. Truth stands even if there be no public support. It is self-sustained. And that's Mahatma Gandhi. He who knows nothing is closer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors. Thomas Jefferson. Truth. As I continued watching the puzzle solvers hard at work, I noticed a woman approaching the area. She wore a name tag, the kind you peel and stick to your lapel after writing your name with a magic marker. The name on her lapel was written in all caps and said, Truth. As Truth approached each individual, you could sense her concern and excitement for each person. She approached one young woman who had completed a top left portion of the puzzle, revealing blue skies and wispy white clouds, and she asked this person if she had been able to determine the picture that the puzzle represented. With complete confidence and enthusiasm, the young woman responded by telling Truth that she had been able to determine that the picture this puzzle represents is the beauty of the clear open skies reflecting rays of sunshine. To me, she said, this also represents the light that shines into our lives from Spirit. Truth responded, yes, you are correct. This is what the puzzle represents to you. You are doing an excellent job. Please continue. I then watched as Truth moved down the table to ask the same question of an elderly man who appeared to have made greater progress on his puzzle. After being asked what the puzzle represents, the man took a moment to look at the completed portion of his puzzle, revealing a tumultuous and raging river with whitecaps. The river appeared to be buffeting a dam with stress fractures and cracks. It appeared to be close to giving way. After studying this completed portion of his puzzle, the man responded to Truth saying, I see this tumultuous river buffeting the dam, and I know what this puzzle represents. Truth asked the man to continue. The river represents trials in our lives, and the dam represents me as an individual, beaten and battered by the trials. I'm doing everything I can to withstand the beating, but I must call out to God to help me, for I cannot stand alone. This puzzle represents my need of God. Truth responded, yes, you are correct, and this is what the puzzle represents to you. You are doing an excellent job. Please continue. As Truth continued to move from person to person, it became apparent to me that although some of the puzzles at the tables I viewed shared completed portions in common, the individuals were each convinced that they had gained the understanding of what their individual puzzle represented, and they had this confirmed by Truth. When I explained this observation to the teacher, he smiled, and he said to me, you are beginning to understand, but you have much observing to do, and much more understanding to gain. I could now feel the excitement welling up within me, as if for the first time, after a lifetime of being locked in a room without a view of the outside, I had a curtain drawn to expose a window and provide me with a glimpse to an outside world I didn't know existed. I asked the teacher to allow me to continue observing the puzzle-solving people at the tables, and he gave me permission to do so. And now I'll move on to the next chapter, starting with the quotes. The universal brotherhood of man is our most precious possession, what there is of it. Mark Twain. Whoever in prayer can say, Our Father, acknowledges and should feel the brotherhood of the whole race of mankind. Tryon Edwards. And now I'll begin the reading of the chapter, Brotherhood. As I continued to watch, I saw a man approaching the table. This man also wore a name tag that read, Brotherhood. As the man approached each individual, he asked them how their puzzle solving was going. He also made an announcement to the table that seemed to astonish the puzzle solvers as much as it did me. Brotherhood proclaimed to everyone at the table that they had made incredible progress on their puzzles, and asked why they chose not to communicate with one another. The individuals at the table responded, explaining that they were all focused on their own puzzles and didn't understand the need to discuss their puzzle with someone working on a puzzle different than theirs. Brotherhood smiled and said, "You may find that helping your brothers and sisters with their puzzles may give you a needed break from your own. It may also be that your brother or sister may in turn need to take a break from their puzzle and help you with yours." Agreeing to this, the puzzle solvers began to communicate with one another and work together. As I watched the individuals begin to communicate, I was fascinated to see them study one another's puzzles. Some seemed perplexed to find similarities between the individual puzzles. Some attempted to force their own interpretation of their puzzles upon their neighbors, based on what they had completed on their own. Some even tried to force pieces of the puzzle together to suit their own interpretations. Eventually, a few of the puzzle solvers resolved to just focus on helping their neighbor solve their puzzle. As I continued to watch, it was amazing to see things unfold. At times I could watch the realization on the face of an individual take place as he or she became aware that a portion of a neighbor's puzzle contained an area that was the same as was his or her own. He or she would temporarily forget about the perceived differences of the overall puzzle and ask their neighbor and help their neighbor make progress. As this was taking place, the teacher asked me another question. He said, "Now who is making better progress in solving his or her puzzle the fastest?" I responded with, "It appears that the progress has moved from that of an individual to one of a united effort. Individuals being helped to make progress are later able to return the favor to the person helping her or him. In doing so, it appears that a person who has made greater progress is actually able to help another bypass his or her own progress, which enables her or him to in turn help them yet again." The teacher smiled and said, "This is a testament to truth and brotherhood, and they both would be proud to hear you say this." As I watched the puzzle solvers move through their respective puzzles and how each of them dealt with her or his own and their neighbor's puzzles, I began to see more clearly the parallels, the seemingly simple experience related to us as humans and our potential and ability to work together and to help one another. The table of puzzle solvers was not without conflict and the need for mediation. The dynamics of the setting was only beginning to get interesting. As puzzle solvers at the large table evolved in their progress, some began to see the similarities in their puzzles as a sign that they had reached a clear understanding and decided to unite in their victory. As Truth approached the table again and found these individuals now grouped together and enjoying the shared commonalities of their puzzles, she asked them why they had ceased to continue to work on their puzzles. They responded, "You see, Truth, we have come to understand the meaning of the puzzle and all that it represents. We have looked upon one another's puzzles, and we are able to see clearly the same picture. There is no need for us to continue." Truth then asked the group, "This is your truth, and you have clearly seen a common portion of the puzzle completed by each of you. You have realized that your puzzles are the same. Why do you not wish to continue to see if a clearer picture is yet to be revealed? You can also look upon your other brothers and sisters' puzzles." The group replied, "They are trying to change our views of what we already know to be true. Why would we want to spend our time in vain when we already clearly see what the puzzle represents and we know its meaning?" For the first time, I saw disappointment on the face of Truth as she lowered her head and walked away from the group. I asked the teacher, "Why doesn't Truth insist that these individuals continue with their puzzles? If they stop now, the others will continue and pass them. The others will also eventually complete their puzzles, whereas this group will not." Now for the first time, I also saw a look of disappointment on the face of my teacher. He said to me, "You still don't understand. The puzzle solving is not a race or a competition. You have so much left to learn." At this point, feeling a bit frustrated, I returned to watching the progress, and the lack thereof, by some at the table of the puzzles. As the puzzle solving continued for some and not for others, I watched as factions began to develop. Other groups began to form, for they had recognized portions of the puzzles that they shared in common, and each group declared themselves to hold the true representation of the puzzle. People began to argue with one another over the understanding of what the puzzles represented. Brotherhood came back to the table and tried to reason with the arguing groups and individuals, but they insisted that they had found brotherhood within their respective groups based on the commonalities that they had shared in the puzzle. When Truth joined Brotherhood in an effort to encourage the groups to work together, these groups requested separate tables to allow them to continue to enjoy their truth without disruption. In spite of Truth's and Brotherhood's efforts to inspire the individuals to work together, they divided into separate groups. Because Truth is understanding and long-suffering, she permitted the separation to take place. Several tables were established within the room. There were tables representing the sky puzzle, groups representing the river puzzle, groups representing the flower puzzle, groups representing the cottage puzzle, and on until the room was divided into a plethora of puzzle representations, each believing themselves to embody real truth and brotherhood. Of course, Truth and Brotherhood remained close at hand, watching for the opportunity to empower each and all of the individuals to do just that. As the groups settled into their complacency, individuals of each group began to feel a yearning for more. As they expressed their feelings of frustration or a desire to see what the other portions of the puzzle would reveal if put together, Truth and Brotherhood would encourage these individuals to enjoy liberty of visiting other groups and exploring their insights and understandings. It wouldn't take long for individuals to respond to this encouragement and for exploration to take place. As time went on, certain individuals among various groups decided that they would explore the other groups to investigate what they determined the puzzle represents and why. They also were interested in viewing the portions of the puzzle others had completed. Some set out with a mission to convert the others to their group. Some were determined to find differences so that they could be convinced that the other groups were wrong, and still some set out with open minds and a sincere interest in understanding the other group's perspectives. As the scouts and the seekers diligently pursued their individual objectives, as these scouts and seekers diligently pursued their individual objectives, the dynamics of the room began to once again evolve and change. And so that's the end of those two chapters, and I will be returning with the next video to begin the chapter Evolution of the Experts. I hope you're continuing to enjoy the reading of the puzzle. And don't forget the first video does have a link for you to download the book for free and read it on your own if you prefer to read it than to hear it audibly. And again, I thank you for joining me, for listening, and for allowing me to come into your world with this experience and this writing.